Oh! Well, howdy. Welcome to Cryptid Caravans. We're hauling in new monsters all the time. You caught me in the middle of making a new little home defense tool in case I come across today's creepy creature. It's a weird little sucker. I'm talking about the Enfield Horror. As the name suggests, this critter hails from the town of Enfield, Illinois, which is about 120 miles east of St. Louis. And you should see what that's put up down the road in Haddonfield. Still, I'd rather take my chances with him than this creepy little cryptid. It's described as a figure standing 4.5 feet, with grayish skin covered in slime and typical glowing red eyes. It has 2 little arms and props itself up on 3 legs. It's just a whole mess of limbs. And it made its official debut in April of 1973. Young Greg Garrett was playing in his backyard, minding his own business, when out of the dark came the Enfield Horror. It used its claws to tear up Garrett's shoes. The boy ran back into his house, escaping the beast. And so the critter scurried back into the woods. Quitter. But he did try his luck again later that evening. Henry McDaniel came home around 9:30 to find his kids cowering in the house. They said a thing had tried to break in. What would you... How'd it get out of Antarctica? It tried coming in through the family's window-mounted AC, the kids said. Then they all heard the scratching at the front door. McDaniels opened up the door, expecting to see a stray dog or cat, but what he found in the rose bushes was neither. The sight of the Enfield Horror caused him to retreat back into the house in search of a gun. I always keep one above the door, one in the umbrella stand, one on the coat rack, one in the corner, one over on... Returning with a flashlight and a .22 pistol, he fired 4 shots at the creature. At least one of them hit, causing the Enfield Horror to hiss like a wildcat, then escaped by making 17 feet leaps. When the cops arrived, they found some scratch marks on the door and footprints in the mud around the house that were described as a 6-toed paw. McDaniels thought that was the last he'd see that creature, but luck did not favor Enfield, Illinois. On May 6th of that year, McDaniels was awoken in the middle of the night to the neighborhood dogs howling. Grabbing a gun, he went to the front step. He spotted something moving across the railroad tracks at a fair distance from his house. All these reports started a bit of a panic inside of Enfield, so much so the local sheriff threatened to throw McDaniels in jail for causing a scene. Once the media got a hold of this story, amateur monster hunters flocked from out of state. Most were just using the monster as an excuse to go out drinking. The last real sighting came from Rick Rainbow, news director at the radio station. While out searching with a small group of locals, Rainbow spotted the beast stalked around an empty house near the McDaniels house. They weren't armed, but they did claim to have caught a recording of the creature's screeches, which I can't find anywhere, of course. After that, our good friend Lorne Coleman showed up on the scene to investigate, but he left just as confused as when he arrived. And the creature seemed to leave with him. That was the last sighting of it. And so, of course, all the speculation started then. First things first, the Garrett kid admitted that his story was a prank. Darn kids! Some people drew similarities between the Enfield Horror and a leaping beast that terrorized the nearby town of Mount Vernon during the early 40s. Others believe McDaniels had an encounter with a wild animal or an escaped kangaroo. Now that's what people said about the Jersey Devil. People need to keep better track of their kangaroos. The basis of his theory is that the kangaroo's thick tail could appear as a third leg in the dark. An Ohio man contacted local papers saying it may be his pet kangaroo that disappeared a year ago, but McDaniel swears up and down that it wasn't a kangaroo. During his time in the service, he was stationed in Australia, where they had a pet roo. Others look at the fact that the monster attacked people so readily as a sign it's a demon. And of course there are those that immediately cry alien, especially with some Enfieldians reporting UFOs in the area. A little gray alien wandered around the countryside during the 70s. Now where do I know that from? One of the paranormal explanations for the horror digs into the history of the location. Since early colonial times, this part of Illinois was known for strange phantoms, orbs of light, and mysterious howls and screams. The settlers nicknamed the area the Devil's Kitchen.
Well, that's mostly because it always smelled like overcooked chicken.
With this theory, it's believed the Enfield Horror is just another manifestation of this cursed land.
Now, the Enfield Horror has stayed pretty obscure outside of the cryptid community. Not too many movie or TV appearances for this freaky little critter. And I'm alright with that. But it did help the scientific community of the time.
5 years later, in 1978, Western Illinois University studied the sightings and subsequent media coverage to develop a social contagion theory about how hysteria spreads. Most people they interviewed did admit that McDaniels probably saw a normal animal or perhaps had an overactive imagination. Only one interviewee believed that the Enfield Horror was an otherworldly being.
And that leads us to making a choice. Is the Enfield Horror a space invader, wild animal, demon spawn, crazy kangaroo, or just pure hokum? Well, that's for you to decide. I just give you the history. But if that little ball limb shows up, hang on, I gotta take care of something.